Hi, so I'm here with Anina and Paul from So Long Space Girl. So I guess the first question is, who are So Long Space Girl?
We are a pop punk band from Oxford.
So in a
Uh,
nutshell,
I'm,
if someone's never heard of you before, how would you describe yourselves? What would your
I'd
tagline be?
say we write just energetic, sort of pop punk, alt rock, sort of music.
Yeah. Do your influences sort of your real life situations? Do you write based on stuff that you've experienced, or is it kind of hypothetical situation? Because your new record is quite a angsty, emotionally charged
Yeah.
offering. Is that taken
Yeah,
from your own experiences, or is that just sort of
I think with both albums that we've recorded, all the lyrics are based on personal experiences.
Yeah, I think AJ. AJ writes all the songs. He writes all the lyrics and stuff like that. Um, I think a lot of it is sort of his personal feelings, just sort of he's projecting. But I think a lot of the other stuff he writes might be sort of hypothetical. So he's a bit of a thinker, really.
oh, okay, yeah, it's quite interesting to write like that. I know a lot of bands have done sort of conceptual albums where the whole storyline has been completely made up. So it's quite an interesting concept to get someone to buy into something that isn't real. So when I listened to your record, I felt all the emotions listening to it. So to actually
Yeah,
get someone to feel emotions based on hypothetical situations is quite a challenging thing to do as a songwriter.
yeah. I think it's the same sort of the same deal with the best authors. They have to.
They have to feel something when they sit down to write.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they have to sort of put themselves in a zone
yeah,
and
absolutely.
word it correctly, just so it sort of gets that emotion
Yeah.
going.
So are you making the music you love? Is this what you kind of cut your teeth in? Is this the music you listen to sort of
Um,
yourselves or
Personally, yes. I mean, I've always sort of been into pop punk, but Paul, not so much, really, is it?
Well,
It's,
the way I see the music on the second album, Your Heroes Are All Dead, there is a lot of pop punk themes in there. But when you hear songs like I Hate You and Spineless, there's hard rock elements to it too.
yeah.
We're not restricting ourselves specifically, to the rules and parameters of pop punk.
No. No,
So
I
if
think
we
that
feel
makes
like there's room for
yeah.
individuality within a song. We're not biblically sticking to the rules of a set genre.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with music now. I don't think it has to fit in a niche. I think it can fit wherever. I think if you want to
Yeah,
add elements of pop punk or elements of metalcore or elements of anything,
that's
I
that's
think you
true.
can
Because
mash them together and
if you restrict yourself too much to the ideology of we want every song to be
yeah,
following this specific framework of pop punk, you're just
yeah.
going to restrict yourself. You're going to lose, the quality of inspiration where a song might fit a bit of synthesizer. We had that in the last album with songs like Here's to Romance, where it stood out on the album because there was a lot of synth in it and it sounded kind of like an 80s synth song.
Yeah.
But it sounded different to all the other songs, and we thought to ourselves, hey, we can't just let that go because it doesn't sound like all the others.
Yeah. I think it's nice to have that variety. I think with there being so much music and music being so accessible now, you go on Spotify and there's just an overwhelming amount of stuff you can listen to. I think having that bit of unique, because the other thing is if you've got difference of sound, where someone maybe doesn't like one style, they probably like something else. So while a whole album might not appeal to everyone, there's going to be elements of that album that's always going to appeal or should appeal to someone. So I think it's nice to
yeah,
have
yeah.
that.
I mean, in my opinion, stillness spells the death of a band. It's always good to keep it fresh and keep the style flowing. You know.
Absolutely.
And of course, in
Absolutely.
a band, you're built up of individuals. They're going to be, because there's four of us, there's going to be, half the camp are going to be heavily influenced by Green Day, Bowling for Soup, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, like me and Rob, who are not necessarily, historically based in that genre of music, but we can contribute because we're not stuck to those guidelines.
Yeah.
With songs like Spineless, for example, which is more like a kind of grinding hard rock
Mm.
thing. It's kind of like I enjoy playing that a lot more than I enjoy playing the punk rock songs.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think when I was listening to you, although it's a base of pop punk, I wouldn't necessarily, if someone said, describe your sound, I wouldn't necessarily say pop punk. To me, pop punk is Newfound Glory type a sound, and I wouldn't necessarily compare you to Newfound Glory. It was a lot more
Yeah.
based on the hard rock the kind of
Yeah,
the alt rock type sound than maybe the typical pop Americanized pop punk.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely important not to get too ground down into being something kind of esoteric.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get certain members of the band that kind of feel isolated.
Yeah.
In terms of what influence they can bring to each individual track.
Yeah. So you say that one of the other members writes, or do you all share the writing, or is it specifically one?
So mainly AJ does sort of the writing of the songs. I think that's mainly because he's got such a backlog of songs that he's written over the years.
Yeah.
That we haven't had chance to actually bring what we do into it yet.
Yeah.
But as far as the songs go, like the finished product, we do add our little embellishments on it, and sort of, I think it sound better with, a solo here or a little riff there, But yeah, I'm pretty sure, that the best stuff is to come, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how long have you been together as a band?
So we've been together since 2019.
Okay.
Me and Paul come off a bad spell of awful singer syndrome, people quitting the band and all the rest of it. So we sort of
people moved on to other areas.
Exactly. So we put an advert out.
They have careers.
Yeah, we put an advert out for a new singer, and we found AJ. This was for our acoustic project, but we heard what he was doing and the stuff he'd written, and we were like, you know what, we should probably just focus on his stuff and make it into a full band and just try and push that, because it was just so good,
Yeah. So have you gigged much locally, sort of around the country? Do you get out?
Unfortunately, no. Obviously, because of the pandemic, that sort of cut us short on the gig front, and it's the after effects of that are still going on. A lot of the venues now, they've closed down. There's not as many places that we can actually play. So we are
your full-time role. Is music your full-time jobs, or have you got day jobs?
No, we have day jobs.
We do have day jobs. Yeah.
It allows us to fund this.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We are playing Riverside Festival in Chalbury this year, so that's confirmed. But yeah, we're just going to try and get on the summer festivals and the like, and hopefully there's a lot of those.
I think a lot of pubs now are starting to sort of open up to bands. So a lot of pubs that maybe didn't pre-pandemic have live music are starting to put bands on. I know a lot of the pubs around here are starting to sort of have a lot more of that kind of thing. I think there's a lot more emphasis on smaller bands now, local music scenes. Seems to be a very big thing, because I suppose in some ways it's because the larger bands price themselves out of people being able to afford to go. So well, this is see live music. It's not.
You're going to charge a premium.
I guess what's next for you? What are the next project steps, aspirations?
I think as regards recording, I mean, we put out 2 albums in 2 years, so I think for the moment we should probably leave off of any more recording. Just we need that time to sort of recover and maybe just put our focus in other places, as we just mentioned, gigs and stuff like that.
Is it all self-funded what you do? So self-recorded?
Yes. Yeah, it's all self-funded.
Yeah, it gets expensive, I imagine.
Well, the main expense was a recording, so we're recovering from that now, fortunately.
Yeah. So which festival did you say you're playing?
So Riverside Festival in Chalbury.
Okay, is that a free festival? Is that?
I think there is an entry fee, but it's been going for a fairly long time, actually. And a lot of the local bands, the bigger local bands, have played there. So I know it's a very populated event, so that will be good to sort of help push the name out, really.
Yeah, definitely. So is the Oxford scene quite a big scene down there? You've got quite a lot of local talent.
I think it's had its better days, to be honest.
In terms of amount of venues, it's definitely had better days. There's a lot less venues. You can count them with both hands, if not one hand. But there are plenty of artists, to contact and try and work some sort of event with. Like if you wanted to set up an event you could find a venue, and you just need to find, you know, acts that sound like you. So you can have 3 bands on at the same time that all kind of have the same kind of sound.
Though? Do you think it's important to have bands on a lineup? I saw a question on Facebook the other day about, is it important if you're putting on a gig to have all the bands on the lineup sound similar, or do you think it works if, say, you're pop punk and someone else is kind of indie and another band is maybe heavier? Do you think it matters to have that diversity?
I guess if you're trying to pull a certain part of the, you know, of the population in, then yes. Because if you end up having an event with 4 bands and the headliner is a hard rock band, and the people that come in to see the first band are after something completely different, they're not necessarily going to stick around for the last band. It might end up with people coming in and out the doors,
but that
and the population within the room.
Doesn't it?
It does happen a lot,
because I go and see a lot of the local bands down here, and maybe there's 4 bands on a lineup, and you'll have between bands so many people leave. They go to see their mate's band and then they go.
Well, that's one thing. Yeah.
Must be disheartening when you're watching the crowd walking out.
I mean, one particular thing that sticks out in my mind, years ago, in a previous band, we did a show for a local guy called Mars, and he put opera bands, country bands, metal bands, punk bands. He put them all on in a biker's pub. Okay. These guys were not happy. They threatened him. They said, really? Get someone good on now. Yeah, wow. Get someone good on now, or we're going to deck you. Wow. And he was just like, it's okay, calm down. I'll buy you a beer. And yeah, it's just his most hilarious thing ever. It's like, has this guy got no sense of just sort of sticking with a theme? There's got to be a theme. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because then you never know who your audience is, you know?
Yeah, I suppose it depends what it's billed as. If it's billed as sort of a multi-genre, kind of a bit more diverse, I suppose at a festival you can get away with it, having a mixture. But I suppose if you've got 3 bands on a lineup, to have them similar, you hopefully ensure that people stay. Although I bet people still don't stay. I bet they still go and see their mates and then go home, because that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
So have you gigged much in London? Have you made it, because you're fairly near to London? Have you made it in there at all, or?
There was one gig we were supposed to be doing in London, but AJ couldn't make it because he's currently living in Cardiff. So we couldn't make that gig, unfortunately. And I wasn't happy about that. I wanted to do that thing.
But I think it's important to focus on the future. That was something that happened in the past, but now that we've got the album recorded, we have a demo, which will obviously open, you know, a lot more doors than trying to get gigs when you haven't got the demo. So I think the key to that would be, like, going back to what I said earlier about having bands that all play the same kind of genre for the same night. Find out what bands in London are doing those kind of, you know, sounds. Contact them saying, hey, look, here's our stuff. Would you like a support act? And I think that would be the way in.
Yeah. Head out on a
that's definitely something that we can do now that we've got the album recorded.
Yeah, it sounds like the future should be exciting. If
you've
got 2 albums worth of material and kind of the drive to want to do it. I guess it's just finding the finances to do it after recording the album.
Yeah, well, this is a thing, you know. Travel is expensive as well. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I wouldn't be averse to doing gigs in London or Birmingham or whatever. You know, that'd be great.
Do you do projects outside of So Long Space Girl? Do you ever sort of do solo stuff on your own? Play for other bands?
I'm a de facto member of a band from Australia, oddly enough, called the Quagars. That's been going for a few years now. But basically what I do is I just sort of record stuff and shoot it over to Simiana, and she does what she does with it. And outside of that, we haven't done the acoustic stuff for a while.
Between us, we've got our own backlog of acoustic music that we haven't put forward into this band. And that is something we will probably work on going forward.
I want to get back to that.
That would be interesting. That would be an interesting concept, to bring the pace right down with something more acoustic, something sort of totally different.
Yeah.
That probably worked quite well. That probably fit quite well.
As he said, we've got bunches of
we got a backlog.
Music. We have.
So have you been in bands most of your lives and adult lives?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was 4 years old tapping on tins and putting elastic bands around saucepans and stuff. So
Oh wow.
yeah, music's always been a thing for me.
Yeah. It's good that
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
I mean, I failed at clarinet and violin before I picked up the guitar. So I've been doing it since I was a kid too.
yeah. Are you both self-taught?
Oh yes, yeah.
I've had a few lessons on guitar actually. It didn't last that long. So I found it was just more fun to do it at your own pace, learn the songs you want to do, as opposed to sit down with someone learning scales and stuff.
Yeah, that
I
makes
found
it
it
hard. I
easy
would
to.
think you kind of have to learn a certain way. You can't have your own direction if you do that.
Yeah, exactly. And when you find that you're not learning fast because it's being dictated by someone else, they think you should do this at a certain point and reach certain targets to a certain schedule. You get fed up of it. You're not interested. What you want to do is you want to start a band, if you're a teenager, and you want to hit the stage and just play live. You don't want to sit there reading paperwork, learning that sort of thing.
Piano was my first thing that I actually picked up properly. Started playing that when I was 6. Got my first guitar when I was 15. Interestingly, I've only been drumming properly for the past 3 or 4 years since joining Song Space Girl. So I learned specifically
really
for this project.
multi-instrumental then.
Yes, yeah, I can pretty much turn my hand to anything.
Can you sing too?
A little.
You can do backing vocals.
I can do backing vocals. Yeah, I haven't got a
Yeah.
lead voice, but yeah, no, I can do that as well.
Have you never tried out like covers bands? Never tried in that kind of side of things?
There's kind of a stigma to out and out being a covers band, really. Like people think, oh, like a wedding band, and you know, nobody wants to sort of be tarnished with that brush. But I'm not against it personally. I do it.
It seems to be bands writing their own material are the ones that are funding it themselves. Bands playing other people's songs are the ones that tend to get paid for doing it, which never quite seems to sound right. But
no, exactly. It's just gutting that you can take your own stuff into a venue and nobody knows who you are, and you play your own stuff and they just walk out and go for a cigarette or go to the bar. If you stand there and play songs they all know and love, they'll be well into you. It's like you had to hear those songs at some point to love them.
Yeah.
If you gave us a chance and listened to our stuff, you might love that too.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I'm not a big cover band person. I find it very boring. I would rather go and watch originals bands because I don't really want to watch karaoke. So I find it when I'm at a gig and I'm watching and the band sort of do a cover and everyone's suddenly really engaged and really interested. But then when they play their own stuff, they go to the bar or they just look bored. I find that very disheartening. I feel bad for the band because I just don't think it's right. Something else, I don't know if you experience it when you play gigs, is when you play and the audience all stand a long way back from the stage, like, and leave a big gap. And I just think, how heartbreaking must that be when everyone's standing so far back?
Do I offend?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we've experienced that so many times, haven't we?
A couple.
It's not nice. It's not nice. It just shows some support, please.
I think a lot of that is down to the confidence that a band exudes on stage.
Yeah.
If it's one of their first gigs and perhaps they're kind of like just standing there like they're waiting for a train to arrive, the audience can sense that, and they don't really want to meet you to get involved with the general feeling of the gig. They want to kind of stand back and watch you, going, well, these guys could practice some more.
Yeah.
They don't look confident, and you know how confidence is attractive and that sort of thing. I think it's the same stage to audience.
Yeah. It's when they talk amongst themselves and they talk really loudly amongst themselves while the band's trying to play. It's just incredibly disrespectful because everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You guys could be the next big thing. You could be the next Newfound Glory.
Yeah, one of our songs could be a sleeper hit.
You'd hope.
Yeah.
It's just getting the right ears on it, really, isn't it?
Well, that is the thing. The music industry is such a cutthroat thing, and there's so much music. I mean, writing for the blog, we're getting new music so much that it's just an overwhelming amount, and it's just it's so easy for things to get lost and so easy for stuff not to get heard because of how much there is. And it's nice that there is so much music to consume, but it also means that it's so hard for a band starting out.
Yeah, because it means that the audience's attention is distracted over so much.
We're a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes, I mean, even myself, I put Spotify on, I think, what do I want to listen to? And I just get so overwhelmed by how much there is to listen. I think, do you know what? I'll watch YouTube instead, because there is so much that you just kind of can't decide.
And eventually it just tells you what to listen to anyway.
Yeah. As too much to consume.
It's good in some ways. It does make you wonder how bands ever made it back in, say, the 90s, where everything was on a CD. You know, how bands that are putting out stuff now on Spotify, I don't know how easy it is to put a record on Spotify, but I imagine it's a lot easier than getting a record label to be interested and put it out for you. It does make you wonder how bands ever made it back.
Yeah, literally, you just sort of sign up with CD Baby, and you have to pay 50 quid for them to actually put it on Spotify, and YouTube and other sort of distribution places. It's relatively easy to get it out there. You know, just take a little bit of research.
I think the trick is to be constant at it.
Yeah.
You can release a song one day, and like you say, people are going to listen to it and then instantly forget you, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So the trick is to cover all bases using all your social media accounts and, you know, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever.
Yeah.
And even if you're not releasing a song per day, just release a short clip, you know, you walking down the street talking about the weather, just to remind people that you exist.
Yeah.
Because you are going to release songs for people to listen to.
Do TikTok.
Well, I don't do TikTok.
Makes sense to
I
me.
never will.
I don't do TikTok either. But social media is like a big part of, you know, being a band. It's probably the best tool for promotion.
Absolutely.
You have to be good at it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever come to Norwich to gig, give us a shout and let me know.
Absolutely.
Certainly will. Norwich.
We have some really cool venues around here. Some really like small venues that really are behind small artists.
Yeah. Norwich, how far is that from Oxford? Like, do you reckon we could do a gig in Norwich?
Yeah.
I can probably think of bands that you're fairly similar to that would potentially do a show with you as well.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Yeah. I have to look into that.
Yeah, so definitely keep in touch.
We will.
Certainly will.
Anyway. Brilliant. It's lovely talking to you.
You too.
Andy, thank you for your time.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Cheers, bye.